I'm Ryan Holiday. This is where I work. This is where my books are written. And this is how a Stoic might design their workspace if they were me. This is my office. This is where I write. This desk is like some old desk that we found on Craigslist. It's nothing fancy. I had the same computer for like 10 years that I did my first 10 books on. I had to upgrade because when I started doing YouTube stuff, the hard drive wasn't big enough to fit everything. The bookshelf behind me there's two criteria here. They're either my all-time favorite books or they are books I am reading as part of a project I'm working on now, and I want to be able to be writing and then turn and grab them. Like I was just doing something with meditations. Eleanor Roosevelt's going to be a chapter in the new book. I was just using this. Yesterday I was writing about perfectionism, which as Winston Churchill says can be also spelled paralysis. But the two main people I wanted to write about were Ellison and Martha Graham. And so like I knew I was going to use them. So note cards here, the books were right there, used them, went through, found the section, wrote what I needed to do. And then back here in case I need them again. I'm kind of like a fidget spinner person. So I have a lot of nervous energy when I write. So it's like a Morfatti lighter, which I keep on the desk, I flip. I think it does. I don't know if this one works. I have a Memento Mori coin on the desk that I stare at for virtues, courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom, because that's what I'm writing about right now. Hugh MacLeod sent me this. It's really cool. It says, like an asshole, I took him and her or it for granted, which is a really good reminder. I like to have like sort of reminders about on my desk, like totems, things that remind me of things that are important to me that I can look at throughout the day. For instance, I have 3 things here. This is a quote from a producer to Johnny Cash. He says, "You need to build a mausoleum in your head with big iron doors that no one can get in there except you. You don't let me in there, you don't let June in there, you don't let your manager in there, you don't let the record company people in there. You have to decide for yourself what you want to do with your music and not let anyone else tell you." So that's kind of a reminder I've been thinking about on the books I'm working on now. This was a big reminder though. This one's also from Martha Graham. She says, "Never be afraid of material. The material knows when you are frightened and will not help." And then this is a little reminder I have. It says, "Am I being a good steward of Stoicism?" So obviously writing books is a business, a bookstore is a business, Daily Stoic is in part a business. There's, these videos are monetized or whatever, but I try to ask myself, not am I making good business decisions, but am I being a good steward of the philosophy that's given so much to me? Am I being honest and ethical and fair, reasonable and moderate, all those things I try to think about. This sounds a little name droppy, but I was having an email conversation with the great General Mattis, Stoic, 4-star General in the Marines, Secretary of Defense. And I was saying something about how I was alarmed or disappointed with how things were happening in the world. He said, "It appears we live in an age when humankind has lost faith in reason. Hang in there though, it's always darkest just before the dawn." Then he said, John McCain used to joke it was always darkest just before it turned darker, which is crazy. And then I said, you've seen some dark stuff. If you're still hopeful, what excuse do I have? Point taken. And then he said, and this is one of his famous lines, so it was really cool for me to get it. He said, "Keep the faith, Ryan, hold the line." And so I was like, you know what? I need to be reminded of that. So I printed it out and I put it here on the wall. People don't know this. I actually won a Grammy a few years ago. I was a producer on a jazz album that won Best Ensemble Jazz Album in 2017. And I got to go to the Grammys. Some things people don't know about the Grammys. They only get 1 Grammy. And so there's like 15 of us who were producers on this album. And so I had to get my own. And so I gave my own caption. And it says, "When you die, this will go in the trash like all your other accomplishments." It's just a little humble reminder. Here's a little note I wrote to myself. 2020 is a test. Will it make you better or worse? So I have 2 busts of Marcus Aurelius. I have this one, which is just a large version of the bust that we have in the Daily Stoic store. E.S. Schubert made this for me. I just like having it close, and it's just cool to have him there. But then this one I bought when I was writing The Obstacles of the Way. This is a marble bust from Italy from the 1840s, and it's Marcus Aurelius. And I just like, sometimes I sit there and I think about, like, whoever had this made is definitely dead. Their kids are dead. Their grandchildren are dead. Their great-grandchildren are probably dead. And someone will own this after I die. Just the cycle of life. So I like that. I have a few copies of Meditations, as you can imagine. This one's like 10 years old, 12 years old. There's a hardcover of the same book that's pretty old. You can see it's all sort of marked up. The real copy that I love the most, I keep at home, obviously. There is, where's the new translation? Here's the new Robin Waterfeld translation. I've taken a handful of notes on, as you can see. This is the podcast rig when I'm doing remote stuff. I'm also, now the reality is you do lots of virtual talks. So I have a shirt that I have to put on. I can still wear shorts, but sometimes I have to dress up, put on a different shirt to record virtual stuff. Then of course, you have to have your room raiders books aligned ahead of you just so you don't look like you're recording in your bathroom or your closet or something. A couple other things, Memento Mori print. A fan sent me this like amazing picture of the Marcus Aurelius equestrian statue from Rome, which I've seen in person a couple times. It's cool to see from across the desk. Joey Roth print, Waste No More Time, Arguing What a Good Man Should Be one from Marcus Aurelius, Daily Stoic calendar. Enjoy pulling off the day's thing every day. This was done for me by Garland Robinette, this amazing painter in New Orleans who's lived like the craziest life of all time. Vietnam veteran, was a janitor at a news station before he became an anchor. Then he married his co-anchor. It was like a whole Ron Burgundy thing. That's Walker Percy, my favorite novelist, a great Stoic. So he painted me that. These are like drafts of different books I'm working on. Some person sent me this really nice card. They said, "Be frugal with the use of the word like during your interviews." A fan, thanks. So anyways, these are like drafts of stuff that I'm working on. This is like a draft of The Boy Who Would Be King. These are like notes for talks that I did. This is a talk I did for the Ravens. This is a talk I did for a bank in Omaha. These are all like virtual talks. Birthday card my son made me. Final pass of Courage is Calling. These are all the Daily Stoic emails that I had to read as I was working on the book. Another draft of Courage is Calling. So this is usually where my employees work and people on the Daily Stoic team work. No one's here today, and I've kind of taken it over because I am laying out my next book, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But these are, so like I'm working on the 4 Virtues series right now, so these are the note cards I'm using: courage, temperance, justice, wisdom. So as I'm writing, I'll circle here, temperance. These are all temperance cards. But I keep the note cards here in the drawer, and I use them. What are you doing?
There's shit all over my desk.
This is my wife Samantha, who's crashing in my office. I think this is biographies. Yeah, this whole biographies. These are all my philosophy books. I just moved everything, so they're kind of organized by color, which I actually don't like. I'll probably move, but we sometimes shoot in front of this, so that's why it's that way. See lots of Penguin classics. This is a bust of Zeno. This is a bust of Seneca, Marcus Aurelius Seneca. This is Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire by Gibbon. When I was in college, I really wanted to read it, but this set was like $150 or something. And so I told my parents that I needed it for class, which I of course did not. So this is a print I have that is a great reminder from Hemingway. The first draft of anything is shit. And it's cool, it's sort of showing even that sentence had to be refined and changed. But I think about this always when I'm writing. Another print that I have from another reminder from Seneca. This used to be on my wall in my old office. Stephen Pressfield sent me this, and it's like one of my prized possessions now. This is the last page of the original typewritten manuscript of Gates of Fire, page 802. Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here obedient to their laws we lie, and he signed it for me. YouTube, 100,000 subscriber thing. I was once in Hustler magazine. George Raveling sent me this, which is very cool. One of my mentors. God made people like you to show the true meaning of friendship. Thanks for your meaningful contributions to my adult life. Your friend, George Raveling. Fucking love that. I eat lunch here and read here usually. I'm in the middle of this book about Queen Elizabeth for a section in the new book. And then I record the Daily Stoic podcast here. This is this cool print. I saw it at the Blanton Art Museum and I made our own, and then that's why it's in the Daily Stoic store. The idea is, this is like based on this old German Danse Macabre print. The idea is that is death, and you're supposed to mount it at almost exactly eye level, so the arrow is pointed directly at your face. And it says, my arrow is pointed at you. I spare no one. No one escapes the dance from which I dance, meaning death is coming for you and you're supposed to stop once a day and look at it. It's a nice little reminder. This is, again, usually where people work, but I'm in the middle of laying out my new book. So this was all note cards, like much more complete a couple weeks ago, but this is mostly what the new book looks like. I'm roughly done with the first draft of part 1. Now I'm on to part 2. So basically, like this morning, actually, I was writing this chapter about sort of always say less than necessary, as Robert says, but about sort of keeping your mouth shut rather than having the self-discipline to be quiet rather than say every thought that pops in your damn head. So came into work, grabbed this section of cards, and then I came over to my office. Then boom, you sit down and you write. And I think people think writers write like all day. You can usually get like a couple hours at most. So I did about 90 minutes. I'll come back to it more, but 90 minutes of really concentrated writing. That's what I needed. And I did my couple crappy pages a day, which is a great writing rule. And now come back tomorrow and do the same thing. This is my to-do list. The stuff I gotta do, people to email, some financial stuff, stuff I gotta buy, a reservation to change. So that's my to-do list. My thing is every day at the end of the day, I tear up the to-do list, goes in my pile of papers, and then I compost that at the farm. My wife actually graduated from college, so she has a diploma. I do not. These are all my favorite novels. Raymond Chandler, incredible. Master and Margarita, great. John Fonte, love John Fonte. Stephen Pressfield's new book, A Man at Arms. Some of these are signed, which is always cool. Like, your bookshelf definitely needs to have a hardback. Thanks for giving Telemon a push when he needed it. Memento Mori. So I have some cool signed ones. I love that. It's sort of the dream to have your office be a bookstore. It's also a major distraction, but this is my bookstore, the Painted Porch here in Bastrop, Texas. So it's 2 buildings, and on this side we have a bookstore. I think if you're writing books, there's obviously something special about being surrounded not just by books, but by people who love books. This is where I write, it's where I work. It's also a place of business, so it's a little complicated. The idea was I needed space to write. One of the agreements that I made with my wife was that I would get all the books out of our house. So all my books are here also. It's actually been wonderful to have a real separation between work and life. When I'm here, I'm working. When I'm at home, not working the same way. Once the office side was taken care of, well, what do we do with downstairs? This is on Main Street here in Bastrop, Texas. The idea was, we'd always wanted a bookstore. A bookstore could be amazing. So it's this kind of dual use space that works out really well. This piano was from my wife's house when she was growing up. We had no space for it. So part of it, honestly, is just to have room for stuff that we don't have anywhere else. When we bought our farm, it had some really old cows on them, and we took care of them as long as we could, and then ultimately they died. That's a deer that I shot last November. We did a really cool video about the link between Stoicism and hunting, which you can check out. My favorite part of the whole space, of course, is the book tower. This is like 2,000 books, like 4,000 nails. I just love this. If books are the building blocks of my life, that's what this statue is made out of, so and it's pretty cool. You can't actually pull them out, it's an illusion. They're all nailed and glued in here. Are we out of some of the coins?
Like on there, or just?
Yeah, it looks like we're out of Memento Mori, Ego.
Memento Mori, yes, sorry, there should be some.
Okay, cool.
And Ego, because I ordered those as well. But I think those are the only two.
Okay. Good reminder. This is my dog, Hanno. She was a model at American Apparel. This is a crazy letter we got from this anti-masking lady who was very, very upset that we asked her to put on a mask in the middle of a pandemic. Part of Stoicism with owning a retail shop is that you do just interact with lots of people. And when you interact with lots of people, a small percentage of those people will be completely nuts and rude. Marcus Aurelius talks about in Meditations, he's like, look, if you tell yourself a certain percentage of people will be a certain way, you won't be upset or surprised when you meet one of those people. You go, this is just a certain percentage. I posted it online, it caused a whole big thing, but it's pretty funny. This is another picture of my dog. The whole thing is really just an excuse to put up pictures of my dog. These are some original pages from my book, The Boy Who Would Be King, that the artist gave me. These are like the original pencil drawings from the book. This tree fort is made out of wood from our farm. This too. This is my wife's, this is a little chair when my wife was a kid. It's certainly a champagne problem, but the first time you get published somewhere, you put out a book and then hits the bestseller list, you're like, I should frame that, it's so cool. And then if you keep being successful, which I've been lucky enough to do, they just sort of pile up and you can't have them in your house because you look like a complete asshole. So this kind of became a random place for framed stuff that either I had framed or people had framed as a gift. Like when you hit number 1, your publisher sends you these. So there's one, there's one. Where's my first one? This is my first ever bestseller list. This is this is Trust Me, I'm Lying. It debuted at number 8 on the hardcover business list in July 28th, 2012. So forever ago. This is not so much a proud moment. This is when my emails were hacked. This is the first book review I ever got. When I spoke to the Longhorns, they sent me that. There's my dog again. When Daily Stoic came out, it spent like 10 or 11 weeks in a row on the list. And my assistant, as a farewell present when she moved on, Tim Ferriss stole her away, she got them all framed. And the thinking was like, oh, October to January, what's an incredible accomplishment? Well, that'll never happen again. Like 250 weeks later, it's still on the list. So here's New York Times, first New York Times book review. And then Austin Kleon sent me this. He does these cool sort of newspaper poems, sort of cutout graphics, and it's a fake bestseller list. I keep this there to remind me that it's all basically worthless and it doesn't matter. You want to zoom in on that? So when people buy signed books from the bookstore, these are where I sign them. So basically the orders come in, they give me a stack each day that I sign, and then they mail them out. One of the weird things about writing books is my books are in like 30 languages, which is surreal because I speak basically only English, but they send you all your international translations. You don't really have anything to do with them. So these are all the international editions of different books. This is the German edition of Trust Me, I'm Lying. I don't possibly know what that means. I just sent my grandmother German copies of The Boy Who Would Be King. Like this just came actually. My grandmother is an immigrant from Germany, so I sent her the German copy of The Boy Who Would Be King. Ooh, here's it. galley of Daily Stoic. We had no idea how it would do. This is actually, like, I had to make some changes in here so you see stuff, but who would have thought? So this came out October 18th, 2016. Who would have thought that 10 years later, it sold well over 1 million copies in 30 languages. And it was more books. Ooh, maxims and proverbs. Mind content both crown and kingdom is. Ooh, I like that. What is that? Hey, Adriana, could you do a base camp run for us?
Yeah.
Can we do 2 chicken pestos? Sam wants the Italian salad with no cheese. And then can I get a topo, because the ones we have won't be cold. Let me triple confirm Sam's order. Hang on. This is where I work. This is how I work. I try to have mementos that root me in the ideas that are important to me. I try to be surrounded by books. Try to get multi-faceted uses out of every space, but mostly I try to just show up every day and work a little bit, make a little bit of progress. As Marcus Aurelius says, assemble your life action by action. Show up, do your job, you act like a professional, and work comes out of the other side. If you want to learn more about Stoic philosophy totally for free, you can sign up for our Daily Stoic email. It's 1 free email every morning, the best of Stoic wisdom, dailystoic.com/email.